Good morning, everybody. Good to see each and every one of you here. Rod, Andrea, and myself have been looking closely over the past 2 years, evaluating these new row crop accessories. If you'll see right here, we have a NutriBoss to our right and the Y-Drop 360. These are new products that have just come out within the past 3 years. We've got a lot of growers within the Northeast wanting to know, is it worth my money? What does it do? And so hopefully I can answer some of those questions for you today. Here's a picture of the Y-Drop. Rod and I were able to bring our resources together. And as you can see, we have it on a 6,000 John Deere. And then this year we were able to move it over to a toolbar with some shorter risers. And they did a great job for us. Very simple, easy to use. With the folks who use the NutriBoss, I have heard great things with it as well. They've had no problems with it. Here's some data. My goal was to pull some ears out in the field, but of course it was moved inside. But just quickly, just look at this data very quickly. Rod and I were able to actually build our own homemade Y-Drop. We could get it about 6 inches next to the row. And then, of course, we used the actual Y-Drop product. Then we moved over to our surface center, more like a dribble effect. And then we had knife using that coulter to actually inject that nitrogen in the center of the row. And then we used a flood jet. And as you can see here, folks, we can clearly see a story going on right here where the closer we were able to put that nitrogen at V6, V8, you can clearly see the closer you can get that product to the base of the plant, the better off our yield was. We're looking at almost a 6 bushel difference here. And sure enough, if you go out and look, if you look closely at those ears, the very tip is filling out just a little bit better. And yield-wise, we're getting a little bit heavier kernel. So I do believe, I'm going to be very honest with you, I believe this is going to be the future of these new technologies. This is what we need to start looking at. Precision placement of both our fertilizers and our fungicides and insecticides as well, okay? If you're going to squeeze out a bushel, okay, it's time to start looking at products like this, okay? Moving on. So this year we were able to get funding from the Corn Board Association, and very grateful for that. And we wanted to take the next step and look at the 360, okay? That is or the 360 undercover, and had some folks asking questions about it as well. And so, as you can see here, we did a test looking at the traditional method of spraying our fungicides versus this new technology. And very clearly, okay, if you look at these pictures, you can see how that mist, how that drift, you can see it with your own eyes, what we're looking at here. Objectives of this study was to see if lower amounts of water could be used in order to be just as effective with the undercover spray versus the over-the-top traditional. Because you and me both know that when you fill that tank up, you got 500 gallons of water ready to spray. If you can cover 20 extra acres, you're going to make good time in that bay. You're going to help with your labor cost. Something else was to look at canopy penetration, okay? Are we getting better coverage with the 360 undercover versus your typical standard over-the-top spray? We also wanted to monitor and rate the presence of any disease, okay? Specifically, we're looking at the ear leaf, which is vital to ear production. We looked at the second ear, or the second leaf above that ear, which would be this one right here. And then we looked at about the second leaf, which is probably, there you go, this one right here, and maybe even this one right here. So this is what we were looking at to see if these different spray patterns, if we could actually get good coverage, good canopy penetration. Next, we wanted to monitor and measure green leaf material of the treatments, and then finally measure yield. So these are our objectives. Look very closely. So we use moisture cars to try to measure the actual penetration, okay, to see how well this our carrier moved through the canopy. And if you look very closely, we have a spray card right here. That is on our ear leaf. Look closely here. That's an ear leaf. And then up here, you can barely see it, is that number 2 leaf. Our number 2 leaf. Look closely. Here's our ear leaf moisture cards. Down here is that bottom ear leaf where we actually took a paper clip and just basically clipped it on, and it worked great. Here's folks, your guess is as good as mine. Okay, here we go. So here are the results that we're looking at. Graph on the left shows our standard spray, traditional over the top. Graph on the right shows our new 360 undercover technology. First thing you'll notice, all right, so we're going to move this thing forward, okay? The first thing you'll notice right here with our spray is you'll see this stair-step pattern, okay? Notice that stair-step pattern that you see here. Notice that these blue bars represent the top of the canopy. That was the number 2. Thank you, sir. All right. And you can see that stair-step effect. And if you look at my poster here, we're getting close to 50% coverage on these top leaves, okay? Now that's common sense. We expect that. But notice very quickly, and we have 3 treatments here at 15 gallons to the acre, 10 gallons water carrier, 5 gallons, okay? You can see that stair-step effect. But notice here, notice the drastic drop when we start touching this ear leaf right here. And folks, look at this leaf right here. That's the most important leaf that's on this plant. And notice how far it sticks out. This is vital, okay? But notice, if you look right here, we're only getting 15% coverage on this leaf, okay? And then it's not any better, maybe around 10%, 5% with our leaf here on the bottom of that canopy, okay? Looking at our new 360 technology, if you'll move the slide forward, please. Notice with the 360 technology, if you look right here very closely, we're getting 30% coverage on that ear leaf, okay? 30% coverage, all right? We're even getting better coverage, especially at the 15 gallon per acre at that lower canopy. Now notice right here, the very top of that plant, we were only getting 2% coverage on the top of that leaf and up, okay? Now, the 360 folks are going to get mad at me, okay? So this work is not final, okay? But the reality is that I probably used the wrong nozzles. I probably should have used a twin jet with maybe some flat fans. I was using a hollow cone. My goal was to get good contact, smaller particles, okay? And so don't hold me to this yet. This is just 1 year's worth of data with 2 locations. So we're going to look at this a little bit more closer, switch our nozzle tops around to see if we can get better coverage at the top of this plant. All right, so this raises a lot of questions. First question is, where in the plant are we most likely to find disease first? Okay, anthracnose, eye spot, gray leaf spot, these have a tendency to form at the bottom of that canopy. So that tells us that perhaps we need to be focusing more on trying to get these products at the bottom of this plant to prevent it from rising up, okay, and taking over that plant. Let's move it forward. However, what role does each leaf play in ear production? Okay. Move it forward, please, twice. Position of the leaf relative to the ear influences the rate and direction of translocation. Move it forward. And upper leaves export to the ear during the post-silking period, while lower leaves export relatively less to the ear and more to the lower internodes and roots. Simply put, folks, the energy that's produced at the top of this plant is going to push its resources into that ear, okay? Energy that is produced at the bottom of this canopy had the tendency to go to these internodes and the root system. As I was looking deeper in the research, found some work that was done up in Canada, though, and we're still on that question. How important is each of these leaves here? If you look very closely, this work that was done here, whoop, you're fine. Back it up one, please. Work that was found there in Canada with our neighbors through a defoliation test. What they did was that they ripped off every single one of these leaves and saw that we had a decrease in 40 to 25% dry matter in this ear. That's how much we lost, okay? When you defoliate from here down, we saw about 10 to maybe 20% loss in dry matter accumulation in this ear. So what that tells me is that, sure, these upper leaves are important, but I'm here to tell you right now that every leaf on this plant is important, including these bottom leaves, to help fill that ear, okay? So what's the point I'm trying to get at? I believe that we as growers, if we're going to move forward, we're going to have to find a way to use this technology to cover the entire plant. I'm going to tell you these bottom leaves are just as important to fill that ear than these upper leaves are, okay? However, if we had to pick, if we had to choose, I would want to cover these upper leaves first, okay? Here's some work that was done with Dr. Heiniger, okay, just to keep it local. Dr. Heiniger defoliated some work back in 2010. He defoliated from the ear leaf up, and we saw a 20% decrease in final yield. There's your numbers, okay? So that tells us how important these upper leaves are. But I'm here to also let you know that these bottom leaves play a vital role. Okay, all right. So I'm going to wind down now, but just our focus, hopefully we'll have some yield data on this, okay? And hopefully have a second year coming up next year on it as well. Thank you for your time.